Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I bring a guest on and we get a little bit of a perspective into their world of movies. I have my friend Austin here, who I met through SiftPop, back on for a second round on the show. So, Austin, thank you for coming back.
Hey everybody, nice to be back. It's been a while, but I've been up to a lot.
Yeah, and you could shamelessly plug all about it, so go right ahead.
Yeah, I guess the most recent development is I've started writing a little bit for Music City Drive-In. So you're gonna start seeing Hulu coverage on there, Disney Plus coverage on there, HBO Max, Netflix, the whole enchilada. Um, I'm gonna I'm working on a secret piece that I can't discuss until a certain movie comes out in December. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Um, but um, but no, it's I'm covering the 52nd Nashville Film Fest for them right now. That'll be over October 6th. I haven't watched a lot because I've been a little busy doing some other stuff, but I've checked out Poser, Lizu. Apologies if I butchered that name. A bunch of other ones. The Fable of a Song, Leftover Feelings, a Studio B revival. I've basically checked out about 6 or 7 films out of there, all to varying degrees of success. Um, and that I think I've only got 3 or 4 more films to go. And then I guess tomorrow, um, the I'm releasing my eligible film list for the this year's Real Awards, which is my version of the Oscars or whatever you want to call it. Film
Mhm.
awards, I guess.
Awesome. Austin's keeping busy over here. So I appreciate you taking the time to chat. And obviously, the second round on here, not the same questions as before. So we're digging into some different kinds of questions. But obviously, you watch a lot of movies, get into contact with a lot of movies. But what's a previously released film that you have not seen yet that you're most excited to check out?
It's funny. A lot of people assume I watch like everything, and then I look at your letterbox and I'm like, that's not true. And if I tell them what movies I haven't seen, they're just like, wait, what? You haven't seen that movie? And one of them is the entire Godfather trilogy. Um, and I know there's the limited series coming out on Paramount Plus,
Yeah.
the offer, with I think Miles Teller now, replacing
Yes.
the canceled actor we shall not name. Um,
Actual Cannibal.
Actual cannibal, yeah. Nice guy. The sorry to bother you ending was a little too real. Um, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, I want to check those out before that premieres. I forget when that premieres, but I assume I'm checking this all out on Paramount Plus.
Mhm.
And I know they released a new cut of one of them, like a
Yeah.
Video
The
Corleone uh, uh,
Coda, the
coda.
Godfather
That's it.
Part 3, which it's like
Referring.
I haven't watched it yet, but like I've heard that it makes it a marginally better movie, but
And
like it's still the same movie. So
yeah, and just to be clear, we are not talking about the Child of Deaf Adults movie Coda that was released on Apple TV Plus late earlier
which
this
is
year.
a considerably better film
Yes,
than
it's
Godfather Part 3.
one of my favorite movies of the year. Shameless plug.
Oh, I loved it, and getting a chance to talk about that um with Aaron on the podcast with one of the mini reviews made me so happy. Which you all should go check out Coda if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, and it's super easy to get Apple TV Plus these days. If you've got an iPhone, I think they give you. Actually, I can verify this now that I have an iPhone. Um,
Throw it away for free.
yeah, they throw it 3 months in for free, and it's even if you that has lapsed for you, I think it's like $4.99 a month.
Yeah, it's enough time for you to watch Coda and all of Ted Lasso.
Yeah,
And they
I
have a
just finished
lot
that.
of like Apple TV Plus is slowly becoming one of my more favorite streaming services because they got some great stuff on there.
Yeah, I actually just finished season 2 of For All Mankind.
Which that's a really interesting show. Um, morning shows just like sleazy, sleazy fun.
I
Like
think I think that's my next one. I think that's my next one.
C is just like crazy weird. Like I'm just waiting for the big payoff when I get to watch Jason Momoa and Batista fight each other.
That's
This
this
is
season,
this
right?
is all why I'm watching season 2. That's
Okay.
what you sold me on. But we're gonna get there. Now, Austin, obviously, we were actually talking before this about thinking about all the movies still left to come out to check out. But what's that one film that you're most excited about that hasn't come out yet?
So we kind of talked about this prior to recording, but I'm a big Spider-Man fan.
Ah,
Um,
so
so I
Venom.
think, it,
What?
yeah, yeah, a big Venom fan. Yeah, yeah. Um, like I grew up with the Spider-Man animated series from the '90s,
Yep. So
memes and
great.
all. And like I think the first DVD I got was actually the Spider-Man versus Venom symbiote saga thingy, because
Nice.
because like for the longest time I remember they wouldn't release the whole season. They would release the
Yeah.
story arcs.
Oh, that's before Disney Plus. When I would
Yeah,
look into getting that, I'm just like, I'm not gonna buy a DVD set for every arc in the show. Are you kidding me?
Blockbuster was my best friend.
There you
Um,
go.
but yeah, that has to be No Way Home for me. Spider-Man's just been my favorite since watching the animated show because he is just a normal kid from Queens.
Mhm.
Um, Now this is definitely veering away from the just I'm just a normal kid from Queens. Look at me, flip. He's much more like, hey, Doctor Strange, how are you? Let's fold open the
Okay.
multiverse, and here's Green Goblin and all these things.
Steven,
Doctor Stephen Strange.
just like Steven, it's just like, well, that sounds weird, but we'll let you go with it.
Mephisto confirmed. Uh,
Which that I have a strong feeling that almost that whole entire trailer is BS. Like
I
they're
yeah.
like they're like giving you the slightest idea of what this movie is about, and we have no idea what this actually is about.
I have the feeling it's going to be a lot less about the Spider-Man team-up movie we've all been fantasizing about in our heads, and it's actually going to be more based on a comic book that I've read back in 2006 called One More Day. And dude, I know listeners can't see this, but I'm grinning from ear to ear. It's like one of my favorite comic book storylines ever because it leads into like this storyline where he gets the symbiote again after um, not having it for a while, and he there's a comic book panel where he just beats up Kingpin in jail, and anyone can look this up. Maybe I'll send you the image later, Shane. But it's just a powerful display of how much of a dick Peter Parker can be when when everything is just on the line.
It's going to be an interesting go. And because like we got Eternals, we got the Hawkeye show, and we still got Spider-Man this year. So interested to see how that goes.
I
And
think you mean the Haley Steinfeld show. Thank you very much.
Kate Bishop, there you go. Now, obviously, a lot of people complain a lot about remakes
Yeah.
and how remakes ruin everything. But if you could remake one, Austin, what movie would you actually remake?
I thought a lot about this in preparing for this, and there's so it is there are so many movies I'd actually remake because I've seen a lot of bad movies. I've seen a
Mhm.
lot of bad movies that could be good with just like a little bit more time. One I think about more recently is Gamer from 2009, the Gerard Butler movie.
So are we
That's
bringing Gerard Butler back though?
yeah, bring him back. But like cut all that weird like stuff that they had about like consumerism and just like trim all that down. Because I think with Free Guy, I think
Mhm.
we're kind of seeing okay, now we know how to make those kind of stories. Where it's in 2009, they were kind of trying to figure out the cool visuals first and then figure out the story. Another example, which came out, oh geez, I think 2011, 2012, Battle Los Angeles. I think that movie's underrated. I think a second go with it, maybe with a more grounded feel, and not aliens from space. I feel like more of a Jarhead feel could work with that. Um,
Interesting.
and because, well, one, because Jarhead's one of my favorite movies, and
Mhm.
two, just because I feel like that's kind of the vibe it was already going for. Um, a few other on my list are the Alien movies, past Aliens, re-edit of The Hobbit into one movie, um, any of the Fantastic Beasts that have Johnny Depp in them, uh, and I guess the New Mutants. But I could literally go for hours talking about which ones I'd remake.
I want to see that two edition Guillermo del Toro Hobbit movies.
That would be
Like,
so cool, right?
I would be interested in seeing that. Obviously, what we got was a bloated, like, basically Bilbo describing, I feel so pulled so thin. And it's just like, oh, like the hobbits. So there you go. Like, nobody's made that joke before, but like, still.
Like, I just feel like I remember vividly walking out of Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies, Battle for the Five Armies, something like
Battle of
that.
the Five Armies. Yeah.
And like, I just remember keenly seeing Legolas hop, defy gravity, just hopping among these blocks, and I'm just like, what is this? What am I watching? I don't think I'm watching a Hobbit movie anymore. I feel like I'm watching a sci-fi movie now. And like,
Watching a Michael Bay movie.
and like the CGI was super off too. It was just like you look at the orcs from Lord of the Rings, and there's these super practical meat suits, really.
Yeah.
Whereas this, everything looks so clean and shiny, and that there's
All I
definitely
remember
more.
is the Honest trailer where it's just like, from the most beautiful green screens in all of New Zealand. And just like, yeah, that sounds about right.
And genuinely, I will say one good thing. I think I know Peter Jackson had a great vision for the films. Like I saw the 48 frames per second version, and I thought, with a little reworking, like the GoPro footage in the first movie didn't work for the 48 frames per second. That just made me want to puke,
Mhm.
quite honestly. Um, but I think really, if you just went for it, went all three films of 48 frames a second and in 3D or whatever, I think he could have done something as long as he just made one movie. Don't make three movies. Just make the one and you're good.
There's too much crap. Felt like fan fiction after a while.
Yeah.
Um, Now we got in my first round of interviews on the show, I ask everybody what's their earliest memory going to the movies. But Austin, what's your fondest memory of going to the movies?
I don't know if I talked about it on my first round, but I think either Juno, watching Juno with my dad in 2007, which I think was like the first spark of what made me love movies,
Mhm.
because Juno is such a hangout movie. It's just like, hey, kick back with Elliot Page, sorry, and Michael Cera, and just witness these two adorable teens just trying to figure out how to care for this baby, and then you've got Jason Bateman having a midlife crisis with
Mhm.
like a drum kit in his. Uh, it's just such a wacky time, and like I remember every detail of that, of getting to the movie, um, and just having fun. I think that's the first time I had fun. I think the one I mentioned before, in my first round was, I think maybe Pokemon the first movie, and like that was enjoyable, but to like a 6-year old.
Yeah.
You got the Pokemon card with the Pokeball, and it was fun because brand awareness. Um, but other than that, like Juno was like that first, you know, spark for audio listeners. I snapped, but if you snap in front of a microphone, it doesn't sound great. Um, but yeah, it was just that spark, that and Blockbuster. Really, it was just,
Hmm.
this is what movies could be. It could be this heavily emotional experience without you even realizing as a heavily emotional experience.
There you go. I remember watching Juno for the first time, having bought it for like $4 at Target on like DVD, and because like you can get some good deals at Target,
Yeah,
and just be like, I enjoyed that so much, and it was such a strange thing to think about. Like this got a bunch of Oscar nominations, and
yeah, it
it's
is weird,
that
huh?
kind of thing. It's like that and Little Miss Sunshine and those kinds of like indie films where it's just like it's much smaller scale and it's not like obnoxiously period piecey and stuff
Yeah,
like that. And it felt fresh and it was fun. And the whole cast is great. And Diablo Cody's great with the writing. And just enjoyed a lot. It's a lot of fun. And Lego my ego.
yeah. And I actually, maybe a bit of the spark was that my this was the first rated R movie I saw in theaters. Now I saw, well, I guess Friday the 13th doesn't count as rated R because I mean rated R in those days was like, okay, we said the F word a little too much, so we got to put a R rating on it. But maybe that was some of the spark because after that, I was watching like Saw movies. Like that was just the jumping off point into all those um, rated R movies. Like I
A
think I
whole
watched
different world.
Detachment um, and The Sound of My Voice with my dad, and I'm like, I don't think I should be watching these kind of movies, but these are really fun.
There you go. Now, what's a film, Austin, that really exceeded your expectations? Like you were going in thinking this is going to be trash, and you're just like, wow, I love this.
I have kind of a long list for this because it happens more than you think. In fact, I'm like really um, I get surprised a lot more often than a lot of people might realize as a movie critic. Sometimes I will go in cold. I will
Mhm.
not have seen anything other than a plot synopsis and a poster. And I'll say, yes, I would like that movie, please. It sounds like a good premise. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. But I actually have a list from the past. Oh shoot, uh, from now to 2015. This year it was the Mitchells versus the Machines.
Loved
Uh,
it.
I knew it was from the Spider Verse people, but I was not expecting much. I was actually expecting it to be much more of a failure in the sense of Rainy with a chance of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs because that was their other films before this.
Mhm.
Um, and then last year that was Wolfwalkers, which I saw at AFI Fest almost a year ago today. Then in 2019, I wrote about this for SiftPop, but Marriage Story. Um, in 2018, that was Standoff at Sparrow Creek.
Mm,
2017 was Mother. 2016 was Colossal, and 2015 was Room.
there you go. Colossal was chilling right over here.
Oh man, that's a good Blu-ray cover.
And this was, I had no idea what to expect from that movie. And just going in, I'm like, made me look at Jason Sudeikis in a whole other light. And like, I'm still waiting for more of the work from that director.
Yeah, Nacho something.
Yeah, it's just like, no, just haven't seen anything. But like, I love that movie. Obviously, it's like, bought it.
Yeah,
But like, it's something that was like, I had no idea what this movie was really going to be. And it was a lot darker than I anticipated.
yeah, like it. Yeah, like I only this was one of those cases where I read nothing. Like if I, and now like if I haven't seen it and somebody mentions a review, I'm like, not clicking it on it until I see the movie. But back then in 2016, I literally just clicked buy on iTunes after somebody said Anne Hathaway is an alcoholic and Jason Sudeikis is a dick.
There you go.
And I'm like, okay, yes, that's the movie I want to see.
And with giant robots and monsters in it too.
Big kaiju.
So that's always fun, finding a film that really exceeds your expectations.
Yeah.
Now, shifting gears a little bit into, we talked about remakes, but there's also, people are very worried about their favorite written pieces of art being turned into a movie and being completely ruined. But what's one written work that you feel like you would love to see adapted into a film?
I think it's a very popular book. I mean, at least it was when I was growing up. It's Countdown by Ben McCalson. It's a book about this American astronaut, a 17-year-old astronaut,
Oh my God.
and
I
a
read that
African
too.
astronaut. And it's just a parallel story where these two nations have to come together to finish the space mission, and it's just a beautiful book. I encourage anyone listening or watching to really go out and check it out. It's a book filled with, if you're if you ever looked up to the stars, it's a fantastic book. It's like the closest I think it gets movie wise is Interstellar.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I read that book and I'm trying to pull up Ben Michelson here because published works. Because I read Stranded, Countdown, Touching Spirit Bear,
yeah,
and oh, I would love to see some of his books turn into movies. That would be great.
there's just
It's a
so
great choice. I
fantastic.
haven't thought about that book in so long.
I think about it every like 5 years. I like when Ender's Game was coming out, I was like, oh, maybe they'll do Countdown, maybe. And then I saw Ender's Game, and I was like, well, it's kind of better than the book, sort of. Maybe. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know people hate the movie, but like,
Mhm.
I feel like there were certain things it did better. Like the ending is just much more mind blowing than it is in the book.
I like I enjoyed the movie. Like
Yeah.
I thought it was a really solid sci-fi movie. It had a good strong cast. It was one of the better things Harrison Ford had done in a while. Because like let's put in perspective, this was still pre Force Awakens coming back.
Mhm.
Before he just like started dusting off his I'm gonna bring back all my characters. And like I thought it was a really interesting film, Asa Butterfield and Haley Steinfeld, and like I really enjoyed it, Ben Kingsley.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would be down for Countdown and some of his Ben Michelson's writings. Be pretty cool. Now,
I've got the perfect director,
who?
Damien Chazelle. Just take all the things he learned from First Man and
That would be really interesting. I You have my money. Go make it now, Austin.
okay.
There you go. It's easy as that. And there he goes. Goodbye. Interview over.
No, not yet.
Now, and I have such an interesting relationship with movie trailers at this point because I try
Mhm.
to avoid them. Basically, I only
Same.
watch them when I go to a theater. And I went to go see two movies this Sunday. And of course, they showed half of the trailers with the same trailers. And luckily, there's nobody else in the theater besides my fiance and myself during Titan. So we kind of like still had our phones out and just like ignoring the trailers. We literally just watched 2 hours ago. And because like they showed the Jackass trailer right before both of them. And I'm like, because I'm like, I think it's going to be a fun time. But like, I've seen that trailer way too many times at this point. And
Yeah.
the Eternals trailer, I'm done with at this point. And we have less than a month, we have like a month left. But trailers, there's some trailers that just hit you special. And what's that trailer for you, Austin, that's like your favorite movie trailer?
It's I think it's gonna surprise you. And like yourself, I really don't seek out movie trailers unless I know they're either going to be talked about
Mhm.
or like because if I just can't avoid it, I'm just gonna be like, okay, let me click on the link. Because somebody on Twitter is gonna spoil it for me.
Mhm.
Um, because I've had that happen. I had the Venom post credit scene spoiled for me on Twitter. So, and a lot of no Way Home stuff has been spoiled for me on Twitter. Well, potentially, we don't know. Um,
Whole,
but
but Mephisto's in it. Mephisto's
Mephisto.
doing all of it. Doctor Strange is Mephisto.
Well, I mean, if my theory is true that they're adapting No More Day, One More Day, um, that could very well be the fact because Mephisto does factor into that comic story. But actually, I think the best trailers I've seen were for comedy films.
Mhm.
Um, like these are trailers I will never forget. Um, specifically two. Tag in 2018. Me and my friend, who's also named Austin, were going to see Ready Player One,
Okay.
and the a trailer popped on, and I was like, okay, what's this? Jeremy Renner, come on. And then they get to the ending trailer joke where they talk. Have you seen Tag?
Yeah.
It's the hazelnut joke, and I just busted up laughing, and I'm just like, dude, I gotta go see that. I have to see that. That's like the funniest shit ever. Um, because it just was such an ingenious joke that if I hadn't seen that trailer, I don't think I would have seen that movie. Um, there's a similar joke for the Happy Time murders, which appeared before my screening of Deadpool 2, um, with some silly string. Um, and and I was watching Deadpool 2 with my mom, and I even was like, I don't care what you say right there. That is like, I'm going to see that, and I will laugh my ass off.
I remember the Tag trailer, and I'll never forget this line. It's just like synchronize your watches. Like I don't have a watch. Is like time is a construct.
Or
When
the
Harold,
pescatarian joke.
yeah, Hannibal Buress is being like time is a construct. I'm just like I use that joke way too many times after that trailer came out. Um, if you can nail that one really funny line in a trailer, and as long as it's still funny in the movie, which it was, I still
Yeah.
laughed in the watching the movie
Oh,
Tag.
oh, I bought Tag. I I saw it in theaters and then bought it as soon as I could. Not physically, digitally, off iTunes, I think.
Yeah, I have the Blu-ray right over there.
Not inspired cover art, but it's okay.
It's a fun time, and actually, I have an interesting trailer experience sitting to go see Tag with my
Okay,
friend Arlene because they had the Nun trailer on beforehand,
okay.
and I hadn't watched it yet, but Arlene did. And you know the scare in the trailer
Hmm.
where she's like walking around and she like turns off this way and all of a sudden out of like view the nun like comes rushing in. Arlene grabbed me right when that happened and I'm just like I hate you right now because she knew it was coming. She knew the beat already and got me so bad. I'm just like, oh,
You,
you.
you know, on the topic of remakes, they should also remake The Nun and make it a good movie.
Oh, I know one line they could cut out to at least increase my grade by like one letter grade was at the very end where the Valak's like, "What are you going to do, Frenchman?" Is like, "I'm French Canadian." I'm like,
Like if they could cut out a certain artifact from that movie, yeah, that would be good.
That was one of the worst hero lines I've ever heard in a movie.
And then like
Like,
it didn't mean anything either. It was just like
no,
I'm a man and I'm gonna say this.
because so I'm somebody that will argue passionately that The Conjuring 2 is one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. And the Valak is terrifying. And then you give it a spinoff and then you make it crap.
See, I have an interesting experience with the Conjuring franchise because I've only seen, let's see, Annabelle 1 and 2, and then The Nun. Oh, and Conjuring 3. Like,
Interesting. Like, I feel like to me, objectively, only one of them I really, really enjoyed, which was Annabelle Creation. And
yeah.
like the third Conjuring movie was like, okay.
Yeah, like, as my introduction to the Conjuring proper universe, that was not, oof,
It's a
oof.
whole different speed.
I mean, I love me some John Noble, but guy, if you just need the paycheck, just take the paycheck and go.
Michael Caine it.
Yeah, he really did.
Sometimes you just need that money to pay for that new house.
Yeah.
Now, I have a couple questions related to music
Okay.
because, as somebody who's such a big fan of music and especially how it's used in film, so Austin, what's your favorite use of like an actual song in a movie?
Um, so this is where you're gonna get a little mad with me because I skirted around the line of the question. I like how when music is used diegetically, like
Hmm.
in the Suicide Squad, where it's playing in the actual world, because
Uh-huh.
that makes the soundtrack make sense to me.
Mhm.
I think very logically. Like I think I said this on the last time I was here, but when I saw Arrival, I knew the ending as soon as it began because I could follow that line in the beginning where I'm like, I think, okay, I know what's going on here. And then like the entire experience was miserable for me because of it. Um, but so like if I can hear a soundtrack diegetically in the world of the film, that helps sell it to me, and I'll and even have me go back on a streaming service and watch it, not watch it, listen to the soundtrack. Like I've
Mhm.
been listening to, I only just stopped listening to the Suicide Squad soundtrack um, about a few weeks ago, maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago. So really, that's like another example would be in Mad Max Fury Road with the flaming guitar, um,
Yep.
or in Tron Legacy, which will come up in another come up later.
Awesome. So now, specifically, then, what's that score that you always go to that you throw on and you listen to?
This one's really easy. It's Tron Legacy. Anytime I need to write and like really, really write, it has to be a score, and it can't be rap or anything, like Watsky or anything like that, or Hamilton. Oops, sorry. I'll just slam the table right there. But it's the Tron Legacy soundtrack by Daft Punk. It is a masterwork. I love Tron Legacy, but I love the soundtrack even more.
Mhm.
Because it's just so like your mind goes into a separate state of being when you're listening to it, especially since I think they have Dolby Atmos on it right now on Apple Music. Um, and for the for the for the inquiring people, I'm only using Apple Music because I get it free through my cell phone's provider. For
There you
some
go.
reason, they don't offer Spotify for me. So either I don't pay for a streaming service and get a streaming service, or I pay for a streaming service, but I could not be paying for a streaming service.
I
But let
don't
me,
blame you.
I mean, like, I don't pay for like Disney Plus or Hulu because of that Disney bundle that they give you. The Tron Legacy Complete Edition. Nope, it's just lossless. I thought it was Dolby Atmos, but apparently not. But yeah, that's always going to be my answer. I think even 20 years from now, unless Daft Punk comes out of retirement to just be like, we're making the Tron 3 soundtrack, which would be ace. You
We'll see.
don't make Tron 3 without Daft Punk. I'm begging you.
There you go. That's what you need. Out of anything, you need Daft
Yeah,
Punk.
out of anything, you know.
But in terms of my last question for you, what's the one thing you wish that movies would stop doing?
Oh, this is easy too. I think movies should stop, or studios rather, should stop forcing a runtime. It is the bane of my existence when I'm watching a 2-hour movie, and I think it should be 90 minutes, or a 90-minute documentary that could be a docuseries. It's just like, okay, just be like, I watched a Colony House documentary. It's a Christian band called Everybody is Looking for Some Light. It's not even an hour, but it feels like two.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, okay, make this a docu-series you release on YouTube or something, because you don't have enough time. Or like in My Name is Polly Murray, like they have 90 minutes to fit 70 plus years of life. And I'm like, just make a docu-series. I mean, come on. It's the most frustrating thing I have to deal with in reviewing movies, because I try not to suggest things, but then sometimes it's just like, okay, I have to suggest this because it's eating me alive. And like, I know a lot of people think a 90-minute movie is good. Not all the time. I like, for example, I watched Poser today
Mm-hmm.
as part of the Nashville Film Festival. That could have been a 60-minute movie. Like it could have, like by 30 minutes in, I'm like, okay, we're halfway in, right? And it's like, no, you got like 2 more acts to go. And it's like, please kill me. And I know people like Poser out here. I know people like that out of Tribeca, out of all the festivals. I just couldn't vibe. I could not vibe at all.
Like I remember watching the Tomorrow War over the summer,
Yeah.
and like 2/3 of the way through the movie, I'm like, this is over, right? Wait, what else is gonna happen in this movie?
That movie ends 20 times. Legitimately ends 20 times. Like, I had the same experience halfway in. Like, and I've even started making notes in my. I have a shameless plug for Moleskine, if that's how you pronounce it. They have a film and TV journal, with dedicated sections for like. You can't really read any of this, but like what genre, what country, who's starring in it, where you were when you watched it, the memorable scene, some quotes, uh, your opinion, and just some general notes. And I'll write down any time I'm like, okay, 47 minutes in, for example, for My Name is Polly Murray. It's like, okay, I'm getting confused. I'm feeling this thing, because that, for people who don't know, writing notes is severely helpful for me in doing reviews, because it helps me remember the emotions I was feeling.
Mhm.
And nothing, and for, and if any PR people are watching, um, if you see me put a pin down at a screening, you've got an issue with your movie. If I've stopped writing, there's an issue with your movie. That means I am not interested in your movie whatsoever. At that point, I've just checked out. I try not to, but it just happens.
And that's definitely an interesting thing, especially because like we even just talking about like the Venom movies feel like they're just like, let's squeeze these into 90 minutes so that we
Yeah.
can just crank them out. And then you have things like when I found out that No Time to Die was 2 hours and 43 minutes, I'm like, holy crap. Eternal's going to
I'm
be
fine
2
with
hours
that.
and like 40 minutes. It's like, holy crap.
Doesn't need
And
it.
we're into the age of swinging back to like movies are big and epic. As long as they
Yeah.
earn them, I'm perfectly fine with it.
Yeah, like I think No Time to Die earns it because it's his fifth film. It's he's been doing it 15 years. I mean, I cast aspersions to like when people say he's been in the role 15 years, and I'm like, well, he's been shooting the movie for like shooting these movies for maybe like 5. Um, let's not. I don't feel comfortable ballooning all that stuff because it's like there was a lot of negotiation that happened with No Time to Die, where it was like I think they're talking about it in 2018, and he was like, no, 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 and then in 2020 they or 2019, I guess they were like, okay, here's your paycheck, and he's like, oh, okay,
Dump truck full of money, just
yeah,
plopped it right on his
basically.
lawn.
But yeah, I think No Time to Die does deserve that just because it's the final. It feels like a love letter. Same way I think Endgame was. Well, okay, I don't think Endgame needed a 3-hour runtime. I do not. Well, maybe 3 hours and 30 minutes. I could make a case for like another 30 minutes or an hour because there's just some time travel gobbledygook that I'm like, hey, whoa, 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 slow down. But with Eternals, like with Marvel movies specifically, and this isn't a criticism, but with Disney Plus, I feel like they should actually convert their movies into series. It makes way more sense. You get 100 times more conversation by just dropping something on Disney Plus because you have designed days for Disney Plus where it's like, okay, all originals are happening on Wednesday. Um, and
Should have that
when
conversation with Netflix.
yeah, and like I've I think Disney Plus should have more than one day because it's becoming quite clear that even for me who only watches a few shows on there, I'm like, okay, maybe we need like a Saturday Disney Plus original day for the kids shows so that like kids can watch it as it comes out instead of like all at once. Because they're in school now and like they're not going to be watching Doogie Kamaloha MD.
I've been
Um,
watching that.
like I've been watching Turner Hooch,
Me
but that's
too.
just because like not a lot of Disney Plus stuff has come out. Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm getting off topic, but like WandaVision is like what 8 hours? I feel like that was a more 10 hours.
WandaVision was, each of those episodes were barely 20 minutes.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of Falcon and the Winter Soldier then.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier was less than 6 hours.
Then what am I thinking of?
Because none of the Disney Plus shows have been more than 6 hours.
Oh, hold up. I am fact checking you live right now because that does not seem
So Loki and Falcon the Winter Soldier were each 6 episodes.
okay. Let's see.
And they were less than an hour apiece. WandaVision was 9 episodes, but most of the episodes were barely 20 something minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and see. What if is 30 minutes? So
Yeah.
yeah.
They're
Okay.
roughly around 30 minutes apiece.
Okay. So I am mistaken. I am mistaken, but I think
I teach math for a living.
well,
So
yeah, and I'm not good at math, so but no, I think long form storytelling should be Disney's future. I think I can more readily jump on like, hey, here's a new episode of Spider-Man, far, far, far in a galaxy far, far away from home. 27, chapter 9, of the MCU or whatever. Like I'm just making up ridiculous names at this point, but or like Captain America: The Serpent Society. Um, like make that a 10-hour show. That would be because like Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a lot deeper, um, story wise. I think that there's some rough spots, but that's I think because of the pandemic stuff that they had to edit out of there.
That
Because
was
it's
supposed to be like a 10 episode show or something like that, or a 12 episode show.
yeah, and like you hear them talking about vials and bioweapons, and you're like, oh. Um,
I feel like there's still room for like this is a contained one movie story,
yeah,
and then
and
there's room for because like WandaVision wouldn't have worked as a movie. Like the
no,
whole
it wouldn't.
entire point of it is like the whole sitcom thing, and that's what made sense. And it utilized the mystery and because like when you're watching a movie and it's just like here's a reveal and then it just keeps going. You have
Yeah,
a reveal at the end of an episode and then you got them hooked for a week.
yeah, and like, I guess you have a point. Like, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I feel like was loosely based off of 24, and then Loki was loosely based off of Doctor Who, um, sort of, um,
I could sense that, yeah.
um, and then like Hawkeye is, I don't even know what that is.
Apparently it's a what mobster Christmas movie
Okay,
because like they're he's apparently dealing with all the underworld of like
yeah,
Marvel.
I'm excited about that show because I know nothing about that run. Like I stopped reading comic books. Well, not entirely, but like I just don't catch up with Hawkeye. Like
Mhm.
a majority of my comics reading is DC. Like you'll hear me read Dead Hood, Red Hood, and the Outlaws. But I guess he is Dead Hood in a way. If you go back into the DC Comics lore. No. But like, oh man, I can't wait for DC fandom. But like, you don't. I'm not gonna be the guy who subscribes to Hawkeye, but I might go
Mhm.
back and read the Matt Fraction series this is based off of.
And it's like it's interesting because we're gonna see because there's going to be I feel like there's going to be equally as many TV shows as there are going to be movies coming out from Marvel
Yeah,
moving forward. So we'll see what actually gets a show versus what actually gets a movie, but we'll see. But
yeah.
now to wrap things up, I always wrap up my show with allowing my guest to ask me a question. So what
Okay.
would you like to ask me, Austin?
So we're getting into award season, and it's a fundamentally different award season because we're not having the Oscars in April. Um,
Yep.
so I guess what do you want to see um this award season that you didn't see last award season? Like, are there any movies you're rooting for, or are there any strategies you want played out that maybe streamers like Netflix or Hulu could do?
I guess some of the things that I'm feeling about this award season, it's just like I'm I'm hoping things like Dune are good, like great enough to like make a dent at the Academy. Because I'm always going to root for genre films because they never get enough love. But like, it's so interesting because there's so many things coming out before then, and there's a lot to root for. There's westerns, there's science fiction, there's horror films. Like from what it sounds like, the last night in Soho is not exactly getting the reviews that I think most people were hoping for.
I'm so
Um,
bummed.
I still get to see a Wes Anderson movie this year, so that makes me happy. And we have a lot of interesting things to look at. I'm hoping that I feel like there's something that I'm always going to hope for now ever since Parasite. I
Mhm.
want that one movie that blows me away and makes me want to root for it like the whole entire time through. And like I want to see that. And what film will that be? I don't know. For the actual like Academy Awards. So this is gonna so like as I'm the minority here in terms of who they're hoping to watch this show, because like you can't just have a whole bunch of cinephiles just watch it and get the ratings that you need. You
Yeah, for
need
sure.
mainstream people. So that's why they put on all the flair and the whatever the crap. All I care about, make this show like an hour and a half and just give out the awards and let people do their speeches and move on with their lives. And that's what I really hope someday it's going to be, but it's never going to be because it's supposed to be like a whole big thing. But I'm looking forward to getting back into the swing of having like my Oscar party every year, feeling better about that. Like I had a couple people over this year to watch, but like I'm interested to see some because like there's some great performances I've already seen this year. Like I just watched Mass and
So jealous.
I'm like, oh my God, Jason Isaacs and Dowd. Like there's some really strong performances that I've seen so far. I got to see I'm Your Woman, I'm Your Man,
Hmm.
and I really liked Marin Eggert in that. But like it's gonna be interesting seeing as like some of my top films of 2021 are still the films that won Oscars
Yeah,
already because it's such a weird calendar until it gets back to normal.
yeah. It's funny. A lot of um Sundance films are at the top of my list. So it's like I saw these back in January, and it's still like Coda is still at the top of my list. Well,
Mhm.
near the top of my list. I
Yeah.
think I think Pig is slowly creeping up against it. Like if I see the
Give
Green Knight,
Nick
I can,
Cage that Oscar.
dude. I would love nothing more. Like even if you got to do it for Prisoners of the Ghostland, like, dude, he is acting his butt off this year. He like just the sheer amount of stuff he's been doing to legitimate. I'm not gonna say that word because my tongue can't say it. To
Legitimately.
yeah,
There you go.
legitimize himself as a real actor. But no, I kind of want to see just um the strategy I want to see is um I want it to become more like the Film Independent Spirit Awards. I covered that last year, along with Oscars, and there was a marked difference. Like, don't get me wrong, Academy, if you're watching, I loved being there, but your stuff was a mess. Like your press experience was a mess. Um, Literally, we were all on a Zoom room like this, and like on one screen I was watching the broadcast, but I'd have to mute the broadcast if somebody would come into the interview room because they'd have to announce it, which would go through the Zoom room, and it's like I'm like I didn't get press credentials for Film Independent because I didn't feel it was ethical. I'm a member, and I voted in that year, um, and I just feel like having an award show for cinephiles is going to be the best bet. I know it doesn't get ratings, um, but I'd like to see a streamer really just put their money into like the theatrical experience too. That'd be nice. Like I know Netflix is doing a little bit of that, but not really. I mean, same
It's
thing with
like
Amazon.
it seems like every single one of their big films now are getting a week in theaters and then it comes out on streaming. Like The Guilty did. Even Fever Dream that I just got a screener for is coming out in theaters this week and then on streaming on the 13th. And it's interesting, but like I got to see The Irishman in theaters and that made me really
Nice.
happy sitting there for all 4 hours of it. And I got to see Marriage Story in a theater. I didn't see Two Popes in a theater, but that was an option. I wound up just watching that one at home. But like, it's interesting because no offense to 2020 films, I don't think 2020 had anything on 2019.
Yeah, no.
2019 was a special, like looking back, and the more I think about it, that was a special year of movies.
We were spoiled.
So spoiled.
Like Ford v Ferrari, Joker, or
Knives
Marriage
Out.
Story, Knives Out, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
For me, The
And like,
Lighthouse. I know
and
some
like
people have some very strong feelings about it, but
I need to see that. Like, and for me to like a Quentin Tarantino movie, that's a special movie. Like, I think we're gonna get like I think the next quarter or whatever you'd call it of this year or this award season is going to be really special. I'm really excited for The Last Duel. Like, not as excited as I am for No Way Home, but like that's like I just saw Jodie Comer in Free Guy, and I really do think that she is becoming um, a really great actress on film. Like I know she was in Killing Eve, which was a TV show, um, but like she's really showing that she can go there.
mhm. I'm just like slightly disappointed that it seems like there's a few of the big movies I was excited about for this month are not getting
Yeah,
exciting receptions. Because like
I'm a
Last
little
Night in
nervous about Halloween
Soho, The
Kills.
Last Duel, Halloween Kills has a rotten rating right now.
Pray for me.
And it's just like to be perfectly honest, the trailers haven't really grabbed me for Halloween Kills. Um, but like I'm sitting there like I'm really hoping that some of the big movies the rest of this year really deliver. Um, I'm still really hoping for Dune, really hoping for French Dispatch for me personally. Um, the tragedy Macbeth. So excited.
I forgot about
I
that.
will take a Cohen brother over no Cohen brothers anytime. Um, and like we have West Side Story,
Yeah,
and
I'm cautiously optimistic.
it's Spielberg. At least it's going to be quality. At least to me, bare bones for like.
Like
There's some movies that didn't deliver, but like it's still Steven Spielberg, so it's like I'm gonna go in optimistic about it.
like okay, like if we're talking about like 1990s Spielberg, yeah, on board. But like ever since like The Post, I feel like he lost his tone. Like you would normally you'd walk into a theater and be like, "This is a Spielberg movie, let's go." But like I walked into The Post, I'm like, and I watched the credits, and it said directed by Steven Spielberg, and I'm like, wait, what? What?
I like The Post, and like I feel like still actually, you know what? Looking at what he has been having come out, like besides like Ready Player One, which
Yeah, I'll give him an
just
exception on that.
that didn't that didn't feel like a Spielberg movie. I'm just like,
And, and I'll give him some grace. Like the on Ready Player One, there were points where I did see his signature.
because like, oh, he's directed very little things in the past 10 years. Like, I'm just realizing it, like, literally, the last movie directed was Ready Player One.
Huh.
And then The Post, and then the BFG. I really like Bridge of Spies
I
and
need to see
Lincoln.
that.
And wow.
He's got one
Yeah,
coming
he
up in
isn't
2022. The Fablemans. A
that
semi autobiography. Oh, this is the one about him that has Michelle Williams, Seth Rogen, Paul Dano, Gabrielle LaBelle, Oaks Begley,
it's
Gabriel
interesting.
Bateman, Nicholas
But you know
Penton.
what? Spielberg aside, we're still getting a new PTA film,
Yeah.
getting a Coen Brothers film, getting a Wes Anderson movie, getting a Edgar Wright movie. We're getting a new Denis Villeneuve. Um, I guess Adam McKay.
Yeah.
Don't look
I
up.
am. I, um. Uh. I don't know about that one. I just something feels off. I can't put my finger on it. Just something is off.
I don't think I watched the trailer yet.
Oh,
So
that's why. Okay, then like if you watch the trailer, there's a very marked difference in tone.
maybe you should just go back and make movies with Will Ferrell again.
Yeah,
I'd be
I'd
down
be
for
fine
that.
with that.
Will
Dude,
Ferrell needs it.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but in general, I'm interested to see what this award season brings because I think it'll be interesting. And maybe they'll bump up Morbius, and that'll win Best Picture.
You know, as a Spider-Man fan, I would love nothing more. Tom Holland can win Best Actor. Uh, Tom. Oh,
Alfred Molina gets Best Supporting Actor.
yeah, and then Willem Dafoe gets Best Supporting Actor, or nomination, Best Supporting
They
Actor.
actually have to up they have to up it to 6 nominees, so all 6 of the Sinister Six get nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Dude, I'm telling you, the moment like I see 6 villains in a circle, at, like ready, battle ready, I'm going up to the theater. I'm shooting up in my seat like, yeah, yeah. I've waited for this so long. Like,
So Sony, because they've been
like,
trying real hard.
like, dude, like I'm actually getting goosebumps right now just talking about Sinister Six. Like, look at that.
Are you getting your Austin tingles?
I'm get. Oh, why did you have to remind me of Peter Tingle? Oh,
There you go.
okay. Like, and like as much as I say about like Spider-Man, like I do have some criticisms. Like there's some stuff where I would have loved to actually see. Like prior to Tom Holland getting cast, and I'm getting off topic. But I would have actually loved to see Miles Morales instead. I think I'm kind of sick of Peter Parker after this. Next one, Miles Morales. That's it.
I think we're just going to get Miles Morales along with Peter Parker. But
I, that's one of my main concerns. I know there have been certain leaks that I will not discuss, but there is a certain company in that is linked to Miles Morales that is slated to appear in this film, and I'm like, please do not do Miles right now. Please, it's way too soon, especially if you've got a multiverse thing that you're trying to do.
I'm just so excited for Multiverse of Madness and Thor Love and Thunder. My body is ready.
I hope they make a joke in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness of like, hey, weren't didn't weren't you active in like 2002 when Doc Ock was running around the city? Because like they make a joke in Spider-Man 2 where like Doc Ock is doing something and they try and name him and Ted Raimi, I think
Doctor
Sam Raimi's,
Strange is like,
yeah.
oh, already taken.
Like I hope they like do a little sprinkle of like, oh, uh, we already have a Doctor Strange. No, thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave it this in terms of rumors that I've heard. From what I understand, they're trying to bring a whole bunch of like Sony characters in for No Way Home, and then
Yeah,
a whole bunch of Fox characters for Multiverse of Madness.
I hope that Fox rumor is not true because I feel like that's a cheap way to do it. I feel like I'd rather have just like, okay, let's just create our new
X-Men.
universe. Like have you don't even need Wolverine. I'm sorry, but I've seen enough Wolverine. I'm done. Give me some Cyclops.
Like
Like
good.
good Cyclops. Like the one who I remember from the 80s era comics where he was like really
A
caring
leader.
about Jean Grey and like that actually made the Phoenix Saga actually matter, Marvel. It actually mattered. Not it wasn't an afterthought. It actually mattered. Just make it matter, please. It's a simple thing. And also, while you're at it, could you maybe throw some Symbiote Saga and Spider-Man 4? Maybe, please.
Well, on that note, now that we've talked about future Best Picture winners, Spider-Man No Way Home plenty. But Austin, this is a lot of fun. thank you for coming
Thank
on again, and shamelessly plug one last time.
Well, this week I'll be covering the last bit of the Nashville Film Festival, as well as other things I said at the beginning of this. I'll have my eligible film list for this year's Real Awards out tomorrow. Fingers crossed about that because I'm gonna have to sift through 1,000 films, give or take 1,000, and determine which ones are eligible and which ones not. Spoilers: Diana the musical is not eligible.
It's a recorded performance.
Like that's why I didn't do Hamilton last year. It's recorded. If it's if any part of it is recorded and not like actually like made for film. Mm-mm.
That was one of my biggest pet peeves, was people talking about Hamilton being their favorite film. And this might be, it's just like just a live performance on camera.
And what proves it is it won Emmys.
Well, and this will, gonna just throw this little nugget out there. Justice League is a director's cut. It's not its own movie.
That will also not be eligible. Zack Snyder's Justice League will not be eligible.
It's a director's cut.
Especially since it only released on HBO Max.
And it's a director's cut.
Yeah, and it's a director's cut.
So, all of you out there who care way more about that movie than I do can have your feelings. But there you go.
I liked it. It's just like, that's not a movie. That's just a fan edit.
Well, I also liked it, but that didn't need to be 4 hours.
No, I would have rather had the previous formula that they were talking about, where it was going to be split up into like a TV show.
Nope, just one giant 4 hours. But anyway, Austin, thank you again for coming on, and thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.